I was stalling my own business. I was the business worst enemy. And it took me a long time to open up my eyes to that. After a certain point, you have to evolve or else you're not going to make it. I don't care how good you are.
Meet Benito Diaz, owner of STP Diesel and a truck performance professional with over a decade of experience. After nearly 10 years as a Ford repair technician, he founded STP Diesel, specializing in diagnostics, repairs, and performance upgrades.
Fortunately, most technicians, they do a horrible job of explaining things.
Communication is probably the most important thing out there. I don't care how good you are. If your communication skills are not up to par to what the client needs, you're not going to make it. If you're looking for change and you're looking for growth, it starts with you. There is no shortcut to that.
You are everything that is good about your business. You're also everything that's wrong with it. Welcome to Beyond the Bay. I'm your host, Peter Cooper. And today's guest is Benny Diaz with STP Diesel, and you're out of Houston, Texas. Benny, tell us a little bit about your shop.
Our shop is dedicated to light duty or medium duty pickup truck diesel repairs. We specialize in Power Strokes, Ram Cummins, and Duramaxes on the Silverados.
So you've been in business since 2014, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have been in business since 2014.
So tell me about, when you went into this, you decided to work on diesel pickup specifically. How has that worked out for you? I mean, I know that's kind of a specialization to only work on that. How is that working out, and what kind of customer base are you getting?
I mean, it's been great. I mean, we're a very specialized type of industry on these trucks. There is a huge amount of customer base in it. It wasn't so popular many, many years ago, but throughout the years, it's become more and more popular, and more guys have gone into the pickup truck. So I'm grateful for the opportunity that I got when I first came into the business and the way that it's been going for us.
I mean, I think it's a great opportunity. Even myself personally right now, I don't own a shop anymore, and I've got a truck that I need to have a turbo put on, a Ford Power Stroke. It's hard for me to find a shop local that'll work on it because it's in an F550. It's way too big for most automotive shops. It's way too small for most heavy truck shops. And it's just crazy how all these trucks fall into the cracks. So I actually think what you're doing is a great idea. And I think that, that's a tip for a lot of shops out there. Specialize in something. Find something you're really, really good at it and get better at it, because the more you do something like that, I really think that shops can find that profit in there.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Again, I didn't plan for this industry to take off. I mean, I walked into a Ford dealership with a couple certifications from UTI, and I was offered an opportunity to work alongside a diesel mechanic, and I mean, I was just grateful that they brought me in, and it's luckily it's flourished into what it is today.
Tell me a little bit more about your shop. How big are you? How many techs do you have?
I don't like to sit there and say that we're a huge shop. I mean, we're not. We're in a building, 6,000 square foot building. We have four full pledged technicians. We have one shop foreman, an office manager, and an apprentice, and myself, which I'm pretty much a floater now. I'm handling accounting and office things in the back, and then I'm occasionally helping the front office manager, and sometimes I'm out in the shop helping diagnose or figuring out any kind of other headaches that any other guys might be having.
Do you have any tips, or how are you handling this in this industry? Because I know that there's a lot of diesel truck owners that don't understand the diesel truck. Like, especially, they probably don't understand after treatment. Guys in the heavy duty world, they've gotten used to it. But I imagine you probably have to deal with a lot of naive people that don't understand the cost of fixing these trucks. How are you handling that with customers when you have to? I mean, are you spending a lot of time educating them on how these things work?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's about taking the time with the client. That's one of the things that we've learned throughout the years, and I kind of already had an understanding with it from working at the dealership. Was that there was a big miscommunication between the tech and the client, and sometimes that gets kind of broken off. So a lot of the main focus that we've done is try to bridge that gap to where the client understands us, the technician, and what we're trying to explain to them with what's going on with their truck. And communication is probably the most important thing out there. I don't care how good you are. If your communication skills are not up to par to what the client needs, you're not gonna make it. You're not. You got to set yourself apart, and that's something that we've thrived on and we preach every day to all of our guys, is to set ourselves apart, to communicate, and to be honest. So that's probably been the biggest thing for us, is that part of, apart from knowing what we're doing.
Well, tell me a little bit more about that. So when you say communication, what does that mean? The way you're communicating with customers? I mean, is it the way you're teaching your technicians to communicate with you? Like, how does that whole process work?
So it starts with our shop management software, which we've been working with now for multiple years, and that's really helped us take that communication to the next level. And the way that starts is providing documentation, pictures, videos of all of our findings during the diagnostic process. So one of the things that we try to provide to our clients is when they bring us a truck, yes, we're focused on diagnosing the concern that they're here for, but we also have a multi-point inspection, which in the dealership life, it gets that term multi-point inspection gets thrown around a lot and it becomes more of a nuisance, but it's truly a gateway to allow the client to really understand with what's going on their truck. So throughout the years, we've learned the key parts of the truck, the most important parts of the truck that the client really needs to know about. And we've put that into an inspection report where through our shop management software, we can provide images and pictures of what we're seeing. And then we can send that over to the client. So now at that point, it's all self-explanatory. Hey, this is what's wrong with your truck, and we're providing pictures of DTCs, data logging videos, explaining to them, hey, look, your whatever is supposed to be within these specs, but it's either too low or too high, or it's not working the way that it should. And we really bring them into the diagnostic, which most clients or some clients really don't get it either way, but pictures, videos, we're all animals judging with our eyes. They're able to see some type of result, and it makes them that much more comfortable to do the repair. And not only that, but our shops, let's face it, we all thrive and live on upsells. If you're a repair facility and you're not handling your upsells properly, then you're going to struggle. And we have to be honest and with those upsells, and we don't want to use scare tactics or anything like that. But sometimes us providing pictures of a client of the low brake pad, of a coolant leak, of an oil leak, sometimes we're not even done explaining the multi-point, and they're already telling us that, hey, they want to see estimates on that. Can we explain that to them? And they love it. I mean, that's probably been our biggest hitter.
Well, and I think that's a big point that a lot of smaller shops miss, and that's the multi-point inspection or safety inspection or whatever we call it in this industry. And let's face it, as a fleet owner, which I used to be, I would never want to take my vehicle somewhere and then a week later have the brakes go out, and then you'd be like, "Well, why didn't you guys tell me?" When we see this all too often, we get a vehicle in, we'll be like, we'll ask them what's the history, and they'll be like, "Oh, we've always had it repaired at XYZ dealership and they do all the work." Well, what did they do? Well, I don't know. We take it in there and they do everything. Well, what's everything? Well, we don't know. The customers don't even have a clue what this dealership did to the thing. And it's crazy out there how little, there's a reason why this industry is one of the most complained about there are. And I'm going to group all of this into one industry, and it's called automotive repair. This industry ranks lower than credit collection agencies do, meaning people hate automotive repair shops more than they hate debt collection agency. And I don't think it's because we do bad work. I think it's because as technicians, which unfortunately most technicians or most shops are owned by technicians because they went from being a technician to being a shop owner, they do a horrible job of explaining things. And they don't think people care and they don't think people know. And this is what I tell people, look, stick to the facts. What's that? You can't argue with quantitative values, right? If the tire spec for a safe tire is 4/32 to tread, right? And the tire's at 5/32, you're recommending replacement because you're almost borderline a safety concern. Now, you're not saying, hey, it's illegal if you roll out of here today, but we're here, we're down, let's go ahead and take care of it. And I love it. I've had more than one shop that I've had work on stuff and something will fail like a brake caliper. And I'm like, let's just do both. They're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, man. I mean, if that one's bad because it's all rusted out, the other one's right behind it. Let's just do both. Like, I don't want to be back here in a week. And I really
Yeah.
wish more shops would take that mentality of, explain to the customer. There's a phrase I used to teach every one of my service advisors, and that was manufacturer recommends replacing in pairs, right? We would never recommend one shock, but why do we ever change this one headlight? Like, you know what I'm getting at? You change a headlight on a truck, and then that one's really bright and the next one's dim. And it's like, why didn't we
Yes.
replace both? Like, I know it
Yes.
seems like, and you can explain it to customer, like, look, you don't have to do it, but just understand you're gonna have one light bulb that's really bright, you're gonna have one that's really dim, and this light bulb, they're the same age. Like, you can use just a little bit of explanation and really get the customer to understand that.
There's a controversial side of it as well, to where, I mean, it's cover your behind, as a shop. It's you want, I mean, just like there are bad shops out there, there's a lot of bad clientels out there, and a lot of bad customers that are just coming in with the expectation of blaming something on somebody. And we get that side of it as well. We get clients that try to say, different things, but we're like, hold on a second. We bring up the multi-point of their past, of their history, and there it is. We recommended it. We have everything there, pictures, videos, and their denial. So it gives us, there is no more he said, she said. It's all on paper, documented with pictures and videos to support it. So the argument goes out the door. So your stress level, it's gone. You don't have to
Well, and I
worry
think
about.
that's valuable. I had an incident with on an engine that we worked on the engine. I think it was we worked on the air conditioning of the truck, and we always do a safety inspection. Check the oil before you start it. Noted the oil level was low. Noted that the oil was super way overdue for being oil changed. Like, we couldn't even find the record. They couldn't tell us when the last time we had oil change. So we documented. Told them, they're like, nope, don't top it off. We're going to do the oil change right when we get it back. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. The truck blew an engine through a rod through the side of the block. They ran out of oil. And there were some questions about, hey, why did this happen? We just had it into your shop. And we sent them that. And the fleet manager was like, I cannot believe we did this. Like, you guys didn't even top it off with oil. I said, no, you explicitly told us not to top it off with oil. Like, we were going to do it. You told us not to. And sure enough, I mean, nobody was happy. Let's put it, nobody's going to be happy in that situation with blow a motor.
Yes.
But it was a pretty easy fix to keep them from pointing the fingers at us because we documented everything.
Yes, yes. No, and it really is. Even we have the same report. We have the multi-point, which is the pre-repair, and then we have the quality control report, which is kind of similar to the multi-point, just not as much, to where we check all of the fluid levels. We take a video of the area of the work part of the truck that was worked on. We check tire pressure. We torque down the lug nuts. I mean, it's a complete thorough quality control that we have somebody that's designated to do that. So we show pictures of the oil level as it's leaving, pictures of the power steering, pictures of the brake fluid. I mean, everything. We even wash and degrease the engine, clean up the interior a little bit. So everything is documented so that there is no, hey, when I left, this wasn't working. No, it's right here. It was working, and we have proof that it left in under these conditions. So again, it takes the miscommunication part, that argument out of the equation. At that point, it's up to you whether you want to help the client or not. You know?
One of the things you just said, and I really wish more shops would do it, and that's that you wash the engine bay off and clean everything off. And I think as owners, we need to think of that more as not an expense and actually as a resource, because let's face it, if you spend $15,000 and put a new engine in a truck, right? The customer, when they walk in the door, they don't see that. All they see is the same truck. Truck looks the same. You know what I mean? But if they pop the hood and everything's clean and it's shiny and, you know, they're like, "Oh, man, this guy actually put some work into this looks good," right? And I think people need to understand that. I used to teach apprentices, don't ever, 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 I don't wanna ever see fingerprints on an oil filter. Like, there is absolutely no reason for that. That customer's gonna think you didn't change the oil filter, which means then they're gonna question the whole job.
Yeah, no, I mean, I buy a red battery protector for that specific reason, that, because part of the quality control is to do a battery service or a terminal service. And we'll spray down. I buy the bright red one for that specific reason, because yes, the client pops the hood, and that's pretty much the first thing that they see is the battery terminals. They see the red coating on it, and then they start seeing all of the black plastics all nice and shiny, and they fall in love with it. It really is a good gesture of thank you for bringing your truck to us, thank you for trusting us, and it's just a small thank you, and they love it, and no negative feedback on that part. But I used to wash cars when I was in high school, so doing that came natural to me. It doesn't bother me to do it. So after I got done working on the truck, I would just do it. Yeah, and then slowly but surely, it's become this whole other thing that we do for them. So it's no regrets on that part.
Well, and it can really set you apart from the other shops. Like, I'd have to say that was one of the and the reason I mentioned that is I remember I still have this memory is I took a vehicle into the body shop, and when I got it back, they had detailed the interior too, which I get that's pretty common in body shops because of all the Bondo dust and all that. But still, it was just something that stuck with me. They're like, man, these guys really care about quality enough that they don't want any vehicle to leave here and not be the best it can be. Even though it came in dirty, it was a service truck. So the thing was filthy. It left there clean as the day it was new. And it was just really something that I appreciated that. And I think a lot of shops, they only think that they fix trucks and that, and it's you gotta understand you deliver a product, and really you have to look at it as you're there to serve a customer. You just happen to serve a specific need of the customer, but we have to remember that if we treated this industry with more of a customer service standpoint, I think shops as a whole could learn from that, what you guys are doing, and they could do a
Don't
lot better.
worry about fixing this truck this time. Worry about gaining that client to fix this truck many times in the future. So any small gesture that you make, it really does go a long way.
Tell me, I have a question for you. Is there anything you're struggling with right now? Like in this industry, I know it's kind of volatile with the way trucks have been going and the emission standards are what's going on in this industry that you're struggling with today?
I mean, as a shop owner, I mean, we struggle every day, right? It's always a struggle with competition, competitors, trying to keep up with numbers and accounts because I mean, I have a mechanic background. I don't have an accounting background or some kind of forecasting background as to what everything's going to look like or what we have to do. So that's probably been our biggest struggle is that part of really keeping up with competition and keeping up with accounting and things of that nature. But it's something that obviously I've never been trained on, so that I think that's probably our biggest struggle there is that.
I think that's a common struggle for a lot of shops, and really where that comes to a head is cash flow. A lot of shops, you can grow too fast. You can grow so fast. I just had a conversation with a guy today about that. I'm like, if you had a customer show up tomorrow and want to do $100,000 worth of business a year with you, would you be excited? He said, yes. I said, can you handle floating the guy $30,000, a quarter worth of repairs? Because this guy's gonna, it's a business account, right? He's gonna want to that volume of business. It's obviously going to be a business, right? And I'm like, can you give him a charge account? And he's like, no. And I'm like, you need to figure that out before that happens. When that deal falls in your lap, you need to plan for it before it happens. And we were talking about using third party finance or third party factoring just in that instance. But I tell shop owners, you know, if you think you're going to grow and you want to double in size, okay, that's great. But if you really stop and thought about what all do I need, they just think, oh, I need a couple more techs. Can your business support that? Do you have enough cash flow to support those parts? All the things that you need. And accounting is a huge part of that. Like I personally, same situation. I went to school to be a mechanic, right? I went to diesel school and got a diesel degree. I knew nothing about accounting. And it cost me a lot of money because I made a lot of mistakes, not understanding cash flow and not quite understanding that, hey, there's a large expense to this, you know?
Yes, there is. Growth is a very, very big problem to have. Sometimes I'm so worked up that I don't even want it, which I hate to sound ungrateful for it, but like you said, we've had multiple times that we have a fleet account contact us and they want to give us the opportunity and they have, and but they net 30s, net 30 is really big on a lot of accounting and you have to be able to float parts and float labor on your guys. Our guys, all of our guys are flag hour. I don't have any guy that here that's a technician that's hourly. And so as they're completing the jobs, they're getting paid and we have to front all of that to them. And yes, with growth comes the need of cash flow. And cash flow for a small business like myself that struggles to have their books in a working order is close. It's almost impossible. and we're a self-funded operation. We don't have somebody, giving us money and paying our bills on the back end. We're what we make is what we pay our bills with, and that's how we pay our guys and whatnot. And so, yes, that's a very, very big struggle. And that's one of the things that I have really been lucky enough now to be in my office more and watch numbers and, hire a fancy CPA agency to help me and get me to the goal that bankers would call being bankable. I barely learned that term too. So it's something that I never thought of, and watching everything that comes in and watching everything that comes out. A lot of shop owners that are mechanics, and I hear this, I talk to a lot of buddies and I try to spread the word as much as I can when they're like, "Oh, I don't want to deal with none of that. I want to be out in the shop." I'm like, "Why?" Yeah, after a certain point, you have to evolve or else you're not going to make it. I don't care how good you are. You still have bills to pay. And when you do have a customer that we get that wants to do a 30 to $50,000 plus job, those are a lot of parts. That's a lot of income to bring in that you have to manage and get it out to where it needs to be in a timely manner.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid thing that you're talked about, and that's owners do go through stages, and with every shop I work with, literally the shop gets stuck at whatever level the owner is. So as owners, we all have to understand that if we do not change us, we do not improve ourselves, the shop will never get better. We're never going to increase those sales goals because your level of knowledge is where the shop's going to stall at. And just exactly like you said, there are so many owners out there that are like, hey, I just want to be out in the bay. Great. Then you need to go hire someone to run the business for you.
Yes. Somebody that you trust, because I've heard of guys that do that too, and then they end up getting, taken advantage of by certain guys because unfortunately there's a lot of accounts out there that talk a very, very big game. And then we've been through multiple CPAs and
Right.
multiple accountants. And it's just again, it was me. I think the biggest issue was me trying to still be out in the shop. But nobody's gonna run your business and nobody knows the business more than you. And you have to be able to see everything that's happening on the back end for you to know what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
And it was a very difficult lesson for me to learn. And unfortunately for me, I learned it a little more on the late side. I wish I would have learned this part 5 years ago. I think I would have been much further where we are today if I would have made that sacrifice to just learn it and pay more attention to it rather than letting somebody else take care of it. But I've kind of been the one thing that I have been lucky enough is that when I started the shop, I opened it with my brother. So it's two brothers, it's me and my brother that run the shop, and he's pretty much our shop foreman out in the shop. And again, he had to evolve into that position just like I had to evolve into the position that I am in. So if you're looking for change and you're looking for growth, it starts with you. There is no shortcut to that.
I think the best, I have a phrase that I came up with, and that is as an owner, you are everything that is good about your business. You're also everything that's wrong with it.
Yeah.
And really,
Yes.
it's serious. You have to own that. Like, you literally have to
Yep.
look at yourself in the mirror some days and go, like, I'm the problem. I need to either step out of the way or I need to learn that skill. And I think the most valuable thing I can teach owners right now is stop asking how. You're already too busy. You don't need to do any more. What you really need to do is ask who you hire that can do that thing that you don't want to do. And accounting is a perfect example of that. I hated accounting. I still don't really like it. Not my thing. Like, I can do it, but I hate it. It's draining. What do? I hire somebody else to do it. And you know what? There's somebody out there that's their
Yes.
favorite thing to do.
Oh yeah.
And you don't have to hire an actual accountant. Like, you can hire a bookkeeper. I know lots of shops that have a part-time person. Either they know somebody at church that does their books. And some of it too is we're our own worst enemies. A lot of the softwares, the shop management softwares, will do about 90% of the work for you. It'll push it all into
Yes.
QuickBooks if you just
Yes.
use it right.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're almost 12 years into business this June, and I barely got a QuickBooks account this year. Is how long I was just stubborn and not wanting to have anything to do with it. But, I was stalling my own business. I was the business worst enemy. And it took me a long time to open up my eyes to that. And it's a whole different side. And I think honestly, when every time I talk to a shop owner, I try to talk them into it, but they're not at that stage yet, or maybe I'm not sure what's happening with them. But I know for me, hiring a professional, bookkeeper, has probably been the best thing, and getting QuickBooks, because it gives you an understanding of what the numbers look like, as what's coming in and what's coming out, and knowing that whether it's going good or bad, it gives you that peace of mind, because now you can project. I talked about not being able to project or anything like that earlier, but when you have a good record of the past, you can project. You just have to know how to put it together. And that's
Well, what I
probably
tell people is it's like you would never try to diagnose a car without a scan tool. Why are you trying to diagnose your business without the tools and equipment you need to diagnose it correctly? And what do you need? You need facts. You need numbers. Like you need to look at it and be like, guys, if you're not getting at least 40 to 60% margin on parts, I can tell you why you have a cash flow problem. You're just leaving money on the table. I mean, this is what it takes to run a business.
that's my biggest question is, are my margins correct? Right? Based on the area that I'm in, based on the competition that's around me, are my margins correct? Now, that's a tough question to ask, because at the same time, your competitors don't have the bills that you have, and their margins may be lower or higher than yours. But again, some of those guys aren't self funded. Some of those guys really do have people paying their bills.
Well, or better
And
yet, you don't know if that guy's making money.
exactly.
Just because
So
he
he
went out
may
and
be.
bought a truck doesn't mean he's got money. That just means he knows how to spend money.
Yes, he's
And
just cutting his own
so
head off. It's gonna be a slow
this is what
bleed,
I
but
tell
he's
people
bleeding.
about what you just asked. It has nothing to do with your competition. It has to do with you and what you want from the business. So I tell owners, start with the end in mind. What does that mean? How much money do you want to take home every day, every month, and every year from the business? Give me a number, and I will show you mathematically how we work backwards and we get to that number. I've got a shop I work with right now that the two brothers own it. They basically, to get to where they need to be so their wives can stay home and not work a job and that they can be secure, they have to double the size of their business. Because you have to get to a certain point. It's what I call critical mass. It's where the business can sustain itself and can pay the money that you want to get back out of it. But I tell people, look, running a business is not that hard. It's just a mathematical equation. The real question is do you understand what goes into that equation, right? And so here's a perfect example of a number I'll give you. As a shop, as long as you're wanting to get a profit, you cannot afford to pay more than 17% of the total ticket in wages to the technician. So what does that mean? For every $1,000 on the ticket, right? Or every $100, you could pay $17 of labor. That's it. That's all you can do, because you still have to pay all the overhead expenses and all the other things that go into running a business. And I think too many shop owners don't get that. And they're like, well, I can't charge that much. I said, well, then you can't stay in business. So you better figure it out. Like, are you going to be able to lower your cost of labor? Probably not, right? You're not going to be able to keep your techs if you ask them to take a pay cut. Okay. Well, we can increase efficiency, right? We can increase output. That's a way to lower the cost of labor, right? Now we're changing the ratio. The other thing you can do is actually start charging for all that you do. I think as business owners, and the smaller the shop, the worse it is, we give away too much for free. Like, I can't call my attorney and ask him to do work for me and expect not to get a bill. Like, that guy's going to bill me, and he's charging 4 or 5 times what we charge, right? And so I tell people, value. Here's a perfect example of that. I'm going to give you, this is hilarious. I had a road call one time, and it was on a Sunday morning. And I told the guy what I was going to charge. And he says, you're going to charge me more than my attorney charges. I said, buddy, there's 1,800 licensed attorneys in Polk County, Iowa. Call one of them and see if they'll fix your truck.
Yeah.
There's only one of me today, guy, and I'm worth what I'm worth. And that's the single biggest problem we have as owners. We undervalue what our worth is, and it's because of that we won't charge a fair price. I'm not saying you got to gouge people, right? But let's be honest, in this industry, we're not selling water to dehydrated people in the desert, right? You're not. People have a choice. They can take it to the dealer, they can take it to you, they can take it to the competition. You've got to ask yourself, why would they bring it to you? And if the answer is we get it done right, we do what we say we're going to do, and we get it done fast, why can't you charge for that?
Yeah. Oh, that's again, that's what I tell all of our guys is we set the edge, give ourselves an edge to competition. That's why we do everything that we do for our clients when it comes to the multi-points to paying for the shop management software to doing the quality control. We're putting our worth out there. And I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, we can't be giving anything away as much as we want to. And I think when the technician, when the owner is involved with not only the repairs, but now let's move it to the front with selling the job. Most of us that come from a mechanical background, I mean, we damn near we want to give it away. Most of us are in this to, to help people. And yeah, we still want to make money, but since we don't know margins and we don't know pricing, and some of us don't have salesman caps that they can put on, they're just giving in, giving in, giving in, and still trying to give, we're giving too much away. And
Yeah, I've got a really easy tip for owners out there, and that is this. Absolutely starting tomorrow, commit yourself to this. I am not going to discount tickets. And if I feel someone needs a discount, not because we messed up, but because I have a heart and I feel for them, here's what I want you to do. From this moment forward, never change the price on the ticket. You go ahead and invoice that ticket like normal. And then I want you to reach in your pocket and get your debit card out, and I want you to pay for it out of your personal funds. If you really want to give that person a discount, you go ahead and give them whatever discount, but it is literally coming out of your pocket, not the businesses. And tell me that doesn't change your mindset on how you view that.
that's why I think it's you got to be able to separate yourself from that. And what I was gonna say is when you start tackling the front office issues, is you have to find somebody that does have that experience. Whenever you're not dealing, a lot of us, we're kind of, whenever it comes down to dealing with a client, we get nervous or whatever the case is, or we give in to them. But when you hire somebody that does have sales experience, they don't, especially when you set them up under like some kind of commission pay. Now they want to make money. They're gonna sell whatever you tell them to sell, and you step away and you let them do their job. So that's another thing that shop owners really need to do. Now, it's easier said than done. We're sitting here, we're having these conversations, we're talking about having the right people, what to pay them, having the right person in the front office, and then how to set them up and pay. But finding those good people is one of the hardest things to do. And that's another big struggle that we run into, is finding the help. Where do we find that kind of help? And being able to tackle that is really hard. And a lot of times shop owners overstress over that. So what I've told a lot of people in there, I've had to do it myself plenty times, is you want to move forward, you want to grow, but sometimes you have to just stop and you have to scale back just a little to work on what you have in order for you to put something on top of it to grow, rather than trying to grow so big and not have the manpower to back it up.
Well, I really appreciate it, Benny. We've had a great conversation about KPIs and dealing with tough customers and some of the other things that we all face in this industry, and I appreciate your time today.
No, yeah, I appreciate the conversation as well. I'm always, again, there is no microwave to this, and there's no magic tricks. I mean, it takes a long time to do what you do, and it takes a lot of hard work and dedication. And again, adapt, adapt. Don't be afraid to change, man. You have to. Don't be afraid to make the wrong decision. I make bad decisions all the time. It's just, you gotta not be afraid of that. And then when you make a decision, you stick to it. You stick to it. You stick to it.
Absolutely.